Okay, hey you two. So a question that I've received a bit in the past is whether or not trans people should disclose their trans status during the job application process. And so that can be from that first application form you fill out um, and send into the HR black box. That can be during the interview process itself. And people who ask the question have all sorts of different sort of reasons why or motivations why they're asking it because it varies. And I've received the question from people who are pre-transition to people um, who don't pass or blend, people who haven't done a legal transition, so they haven't updated their gender marker, they haven't updated their legal name, things like that. And so people are asking really a variety of different questions that don't really have to do with should I disclose my trans status or not, but basically, is this employer going to be friendly to my transition? Or this employer is going to find out that I'm trans whether or not I explicitly tell them. So why don't I go ahead and do that rather than sort of letting them find out when I walk into the room or letting them find out when they do the background check or when they actually read the form. Um, and I totally get that. Um, as someone who did a lot of phone interviews and then would walk into the room, people would be like, "Oh, I was expecting a man based on your voice over the phone," or "I was expecting a woman based on the name on the resume that didn't jive with what they were hearing on the phone." Um, so I've been through some awkward moments like that. I've had to disclose, oh, by the way, when I give you this college transcript that I'm not really sure why you're asking me for, but when I do, you're going to find that it's under a male name because I happen to be transgender. Um, I've told other people, um, kind of after having the job, um, or when it's relevant to the actual job that I'm interviewing for, or it is something that's relevant to a question that they're asking during the interview. So, obviously, if you're interviewing with an LGBT focused organization or one that has a big LGBT audience, or their role is related to, say, LGBT marketing or something like that, then playing into your sort of personal identity can be helpful there. Otherwise, it's typically not relevant. But in this example, I was asked a question of, um, you know, tell me how you made what was your biggest contribution to your graduate school? And my answer was coming out as LGBT. I didn't specify that I was trans, so the interviewer may or may not have known that. But I talked about how it obviously had an impact on the community, my classmates, um, hopefully change some perceptions of LGBT people in the workforce. But that also, as a result of my coming out, I was asked to speak with a potential incoming student who was LGBT and concerned about being the only LGBT person in their class, which was something that I could relate to as the only LGBT person in my class. And so in that case, I wasn't sharing my LGBT status for the sake of sharing my status. I was talking about how that act of coming out was in fact itself a big contribution to the community, and I was able to sort of explain how it was a contribution. So if you've done certain things that would out you if you talk about them, whether that's involvement with like a local nonprofit or anything like that, and that can fit as part of the narrative, great, go for it, especially if it is an organization that is already LGBT friendly. So in my case, I shared that answer with a company that had a 100% HRC score, thinking they probably don't care, and if anything, they want to check that box anyway. That may vary if you're interviewing for a job with a local mom and pop in rural North Carolina, but use your best judgment there. I think to sort of summarize here, what I'm saying is that a lot of the people who feel the need to disclose or who end up disclosing are doing it with the right intentions, but it may not come across the way that they hope or that they think it does. Because if you're asking basically, well, what are you going to do for a transgender employee? Those are legitimate questions to ask. But if you're sitting there as the interviewer, you may be thinking, well, I haven't even given you the job yet. I'm definitely not going to give it to you just because you're trans. And most of your questions are more related to what are the benefits of this job rather than how are you going to fit into it, how are you going to grow, develop, what does your future look like with the company, things like that. Like, as an interviewer, those are the things that I'm more concerned about, are how are you going to fit in professionally here. And I think that the benefits questions are really best saved until after you have a job offer in your hand. And now you can ask, well, before I take this offer, I'd like to know that as a trans employee, sort of what is currently available to me, um, so that I can make a fully informed decision. And the benefit of waiting until the end to disclose is also that it becomes a little bit easier to prove discrimination. Because after you've been given the job offer, it's much more difficult for them to take it away and say, oh, well, you're no longer qualified. Or we've decided to move forward with other candidates who better fit our needs at this time. So that is all a very long way of saying, no, I don't think you should disclose really almost ever during the application process, with a few exceptions. But let me know what you think in the comments below.